Okay, so this is for everyone really because we've all been doing this week. I'm going to go over the modeling with reference. Okay, I'm going to go over this relatively quickly, but I'm going to point out some of the pitfalls that you might come across while doing this. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is add the reference. I'm just going to make my cube invisible while I do that. So I'm going to go to my front view first, which is one of these Y's, and you can see front view up there. Then I'm going to hit Shift A. Then I'm going to add in a image reference. I'm going to go to my desktop. It's this first one, and then click on the reference. You can use any reference image. So I'm going to line this up, this bottom of the image, with that red line at the best I can. And then I'm going to drag it over because this is the front image. So I'm going to use my 3D cursor here to line that up best I can. Okay, so that should do. Then I'm going to go into a side view, so right orthographic view. In fact, before I do that, I'm just going to move that back a little bit. And then go into my right orthographic view, and then Shift A, again, image, reference, exactly the same one. Bring it up so it's on the green line this time, but we don't need to move it because it's already lined up. Okay, now what we need to do is click on this image, come over to here where it says viewport display, and it's on this top one with the spanner and the screwdriver. And we go viewport display, and we want to set it in front. Okay, and then we're going to do that with this one as well. So in front, you can just select them here as well. Go to our cube, make it visible. You can see you can't really see it through. I'm going to grab this and just move it to the side a little bit. Okay, so now when we go into, we've got to select our cube. Make sure you select your cube, then go to edit mode, and then let's just start with the front view. Okay, so I zoom in with the middle mouse button and then hold shift, and I can use my middle mouse button to sort of pan around. All right, so I'm going to go into wireframe mode. That's really important. Selection tool, and I'm just going to start building out the torso. So drop that down to there, and then grab this bottom bit, slide that up, and then let's do the same here and here. Movement tool. Okay, so that's lined up. So then we go into the side view, go into the right view so that I know I'm always in the same view. I'm going to do this really quickly. I recommend that you take your time. You'll get a better result the longer you spend on it. So just line that up roughly. Okay, so now I've got my basic shape. What I want to do is cut that in half because we're going to use the mirror modifier tool. So select my loop cut down the middle. I'm going to turn back on shading so I can see. Now you want to move these pictures away if you can't see your object. If they're overlapping too much, just move your pictures further away. Not too far though, or they become a bit smaller. Then what I want to do is I want to go to my face selection, go to select, and then just hold shift as I go around, selecting all the faces. And then I'm going to hit delete, faces. And then I'm going to come to the spanner, add the mirror modifier, and we're going to have a problem. Now they're not touching, okay? So what we're going to do is turn on clipping. I don't know why this is happening. Normally they do touch. I'm not 100% sure why this is happening. So we're going to go, to fix it though, we're going to turn on clipping. We're going to make sure we've got faces selected and go around again and just select all these faces. Remember, you can only edit one side of the cube, the side that isn't the mirror, and then combine those. And then that they should be combined now. Okay, so we should not have a problem. If you stretch them apart, they don't come apart. Okay, perfect. So we can use this to work on. So let's go to the front view, and then I'm going to grab my loop cut. I'm going to drop one in the middle, and then come down to this tool and just add. I'm going to just add 6. I would add 8, but I'm going to add 6 for this example so it goes a little quicker. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I've got wireframe. You must go into wireframe so you can select everything. And then I'm just going to start building out this shape. Why isn't that selecting? All right, I've also got a vertex. I was on edge there. I've got to make sure I'm in vertex. Select that vertex, and then I'm going to just start tracing the shape. So it would look like that body would come to about there. And what we want to do at this stage is keep all of these loop cuts at equal distance from each other and in straight lines as much as possible. And that'll become apparent in a minute when we actually don't have them running perpendicular to each other, and you'll see what kind of problems we can run into when we try to select them. But what we can also do to overcome that. So again, I'm just very quickly putting this shape in. That'll do for now. And then I'm going to go into the X view, which is the right view. I'm in right, and then this is a bit more difficult because we've actually got to do both sides and line them up. So it just takes a little bit longer. But like I say, you want to take your time with this. Make sure you're zoomed in enough as well so you can see everything. These early stages, you want to keep the model as simple as possible so that you don't run into any of the problems we're going to discuss in a minute. So yeah, keep going with this. Follow the shape best you can. Bring that in slightly. And moving between these two tools is pretty annoying, but the shortcut is also just as annoying, so I tend not to use it. Now you might be tempted to sort of bring this down, but that's going to create the problems I was talking about. So later on we can do that, but I just want to discuss that in a minute on a different area. So keep following the shape. And then bring this one out, touch. You might find that some of them are already lined up where you want them to be, and that's great. Okay, so that's the last one. All right, so I've got this cool shape, which is great for the body, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the legs and the crotch area, okay? So the first thing I need to do in order to start modeling that area is to get into front view. That's back view. So into front view. If you're in front view and you need to get to back, you just click on the Y again, and same for the X if you're in left side and you want to be on the right side. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to start putting these meshes on a diagonal, and then we can talk about the problems that we're going to have with that. So in order to create this sort of crotch area, I know that I need to grab this edge and sort of bring it up a little bit so we start creating a diagonal. And then with this one, it wants to be a little bit more extreme and bring that up so that it's actually creating that shape that we're going to want. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the model, and you can see that actually that's fine. All of these edges are still in line with each other. Okay. So we haven't created anything too problematic there. So let's go into front view again. And then, sorry, and drop in a loop cut. Now I'm going to line this loop cut up with his leg so that I can pull that leg out. I'm now going to go to face mode. I'm going to turn on the faces so I can see them. And then I'm going to grab my selection tool and grab that. But before I drag it out, I'm actually going to go back into front view so that I can see where I'm dragging it. So I'll go extrude that out to about the knee. And then I'm going to use the move tool to sort of place it where I want it to be. And then I'm going to use the rotate tool to rotate that face so it's going to come out in the direction that I want it to in a minute. Then I'm going to go to extrusion again, extrude down to the bottom of the foot. This time, because it tapers out, I'm going to put a scale on it, like that. All right, nice. So that's looking good. We haven't got any crazy deformation in the mesh where we wouldn't be able to select it, but we'll see if we can do that so we can fix it in a second. See what time we're on. Okay, 5 more minutes. So, obviously we need to go to the side view and fix this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put in some loop cuts. I'm only going to do 4 because, again, for speed. But you can see now in the side view, we do have a problem. You can see that these these edges no longer perfectly line up. I don't know if you can see it, but you can see now there's like it's weird edges, right? So there's two ways you can get around that if you want to edit the mesh from this angle. You can just go in and try and select it and pick it out, but that's going to be difficult. So what you can do is you can turn the mesh. You can see the reason why for this is that this edge and this edge are no longer perfectly in line. Okay, so if these, for example, are fine, but this is no longer in line with that one. So if I went to wireframe and I wanted to now edit this, in fact, I don't have to go to wireframe to show this. If I wanted to edit this edge now, I'd have to go and select this vertex and then this vertex. Okay, and then I then could change that in the same way from the side view. So let's go to the side view, and then I would be able to edit that. Okay, and that's just as the models get more complex, what you have to do. Okay, so let's go in, and what we were going to do, yeah, fix the legs. So luckily, it's not too bad. But I can see here that these two are no longer in line. So if I go to the side view, I can actually see that when I select it, it's these two, right? So that's the line that I want to grab, or that's the area I want to grab and pull that in. Here, it's going to be those two because they're not in line anymore. That's really important to realize. You know, unless you do it perfectly, your legs and your arms aren't going to be perfectly in line. Even if you do it perfectly, you know, they're not going to be perfectly in line. So you get used to it, though. You get used to realizing which vertices are connected. But if you are in doubt, just go into side view or into 3D view, and then you can just make sure you've got the correct vertices selected. Bring that in. Okay. So now if we look at that in 3D view, them legs are looking good. All right, so very quickly, we're just going to go in and have a look at the arms, what we can do with the arms. So what I do at this point is I know I'm going to want this neck to taper in more. So I select these, not vertices, but the edges. So I select that edge, and I just move it in a little bit to create more of a chest shape. And then same with the back. So we're starting to plan for that neck going into that head, and we also get this sort of barrel shape we want for this, and also gives us a better shape to draw out for the arm. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to go to 3D mode. We're going to make sure we've got face selection, and we're going to select that face, and then we're going to go into front view, which is this one. And then we're just going to drag that out to about the elbow, so about there. And then just the same process as before, just lining that up. Oops. Lining that up, rotating the face so it's going to come out in the direction we want. Oh, that's scale. And then I'm just going to scale it in slightly so that it has that cool taper. I'm going to draw out a little bit. And then I'm going to taper that up, scale it up so that it's done the face. Like that. Again, the drawing itself is just a guide. You don't have to follow it exactly. It's not a cheat sheet for that. It's just going to do it for you. I think a lot of people think that. You've got to still do a lot of work with it. Understand how to use them and things like that. All right, so let's just draw that out. Same process, move it into the position we want, and then taper it in slightly. Like that. Okay, that looks great from that angle, but from this angle, look far too fat. Right? In order to fix that, this is not the best way to fix it. I think what would be better would be to go in and actually create a circle shape in here, so you've got a better arm shape to begin with. But You know, this will work for our purposes. So to fix that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into wireframe mode and I'm going to put a loop cut in the shoulder. So about there. And then I'm going to go to my selection tool and I'm going to try and select all of this in one go. Right, yeah, so I selected all of that. Vertices. Make sure your vertices, and it'll select everything. Okay, and then just scale that arm on the Y so that it's not quite so thick. And because we created that shoulder joint, it won't deform this part of the mesh. It'll only be that. And you know, you can make that as thin as you like. It might also be a good idea to stick a loop cut on the bottom, because we've already got one on the top. So if we stuck one on the bottom that goes all the way through, and then select this, go to edge, select here, and it's sometimes easier to turn on that so that you can see what you're selecting, right? And for that, I just want to grab it and pull it up slightly to give it a more rounded shape, and then just go underneath and do the same thing. Pull it down slightly to give it a more rounded shape. Okay. Now you could carry on doing the feet, the head, the exact same method, but for this video, we're going to stop here. And because this addresses the issues, all right? So the issues that we're really talking about and that we're really interested in is when the mesh does not align from one of these orthographic views. So generally from the front, that's all aligning nicely, okay? But if we go to the side, there are issues around here where we've tilted things, where we would have to select multiple points in order to select the same line, okay? So that's just important to remember when you're doing this. Now, this model looks incredibly blocky, but if we go into the modifiers and add the subdivision surface modifier, and then go to object mode, so you can see we get a nicely rounded form, and it rounds things off quite considerably. So you might want to take that into account when you are actually sculpting, that you might want to over exaggerate your shapes. But yeah, that would be a good base mesh in just carrying on building the head and doing the feet. You know, you'd have a nice model. Okay, so that should be enough for this. Okay.